Hey everyone, I'm Evan Ferguson with the Kunes Auto Group, and welcome back to another episode of Kunes Car Convos. Today we will be driving around with Jake Williams, the head coach of the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater wheelchair basketball team. We will be driving around in a 2025 Chevy Colorado Trail Bus. Hey everybody, so I'm here today with Jake Williams, the head coach of the wheelchair basketball team here at UW-Whitewater. Jake, how you doing today?
Hey, not bad. You?
I can't complain. I mean, back at the old stomping grounds, you know, feels like I never left, although it also somehow feels like a million years ago. So it's kind of funny. But so I guess let's start by just doing a quick little, background on you. Where are you from? What's your story with, wheelchair basketball and such?
Yep. I'm from Milwaukee, Wisconsin originally, and I was born actually without a disability. And then when I was 16, I was lifeguard in Milwaukee, and I rode my bike to work, and I got hit by a car, and that left me paralyzed in my L1, L2 vertebrae, and that's why I use a wheelchair in my daily life. Started playing wheelchair basketball shortly after that. Milwaukee has a really good team, and so played 1 year in high school, and then went off to college. Played 5 years in college, became really good. I went and I've been on Team USA the last 12 years. Played 7 years of professional basketball in Europe, and then was looking for a way to kind of transition back here to America, kind of transition back to the home state, and the Whitewater job opened up, and I put my name in, and I ended up getting it, and I'm going to my third year of coaching wheelchair basketball at Whitewater.
Nice, and you guys have seen a lot of success in your brief tenure so far, haven't you?
Yep. So this is my third year. We got fourth my first year, fourth or fifth, and then we actually ended up winning the national championship last year, which. Crazy turnaround, to be honest, from when I first got here. But school gives us a lot of support, great group of guys. So, and we got a good young team this year. So, yeah, things are moving.
Well, that's awesome. That's pretty poetic that, to show that, even people, with disabilities and handicaps and such can still add to the tradition of, winning culture at Whitewater and, be champions, just as much. So, congrats to you guys for that. Congrats on winning, a national title, and like I said, adding to the legacy. But you're also a Paralympian as well.
Yep.
So I understand that Wisconsin in general has become kind of like a hotbed for producing Paralympian athletes. Do you think there's any one or two things that have contributed to that over the years, or what do you think?
It's a good question. Yeah, we just had on the men's team when we won gold in Paris. We had 6 guys that were either enrolled at Whitewater or went to Whitewater, and so they have ties to Wisconsin that way. It's funny because I get asked this question a lot by recruits and other schools and stuff like that. There's just something about Wisconsin and wheelchair basketball. I think just the culture around wheelchair basketball. Whitewater is a big part of that, but so is Wausau and Mad City. I think it's just the culture and the hardworking Midwestern values that we grew up with. I think that all contributes, right? Because guys know when they come to me, they gotta work hard. No excuses. Just because you're in a wheelchair, man, I don't treat them any differently than I would anyone else. We treat wheelchair basketball like a job up here, and so I think a lot of those values that are instilled from growing up here in the Midwest, and especially in Wisconsin, that kind of translates over to wheelchair basketball. And so I think that's definitely a big part of it. And obviously Whitewater gives us great support. Wausau gets great support, So, but I think it's just growing up in the Midwest, hardworking values, loyal, dedication. So I think all that contributes, and we just bring that over to wheelchair basketball.
Well, that's awesome, and I think one of the things I just took away from what you said is how you said, just because, you're in a wheelchair, you still got to work hard and everything. I think that's got to be one of the biggest things that stands out because, whether or not you're born with it or, all of a sudden you're dealing with it in your everyday life, like from an accident such as yourself, a lot of people that I've spoken to in wheelchairs and everything always say, like, don't look at me, don't treat me like I'm, sitting in a chair. Like I just want to be treated like, an everyday person. So I'm sure that's got to be one of the biggest things that they appreciate.
Yeah, I think, obviously no one wants to be treated, differently or anything like that. But I think the biggest thing about when you have a disability or a physical disability or any kind of disability, I think the biggest thing is, me being in a wheelchair, a bunch of my guys in wheelchairs, people are going to look at you, no matter what, just because you don't see someone in a wheelchair every day, right?
Yeah.
People are going to look at you. So I tell my guys all the time, like, don't say, hey, don't treat me any differently. They're going to treat you differently just because you're in a wheelchair.
Exactly.
But I think that could be an advantage because they're going to remember you. Most people, go through life don't get remembered. You're in a wheelchair, so you have an advantage that they're going to remember you. It's just up to you whether you want to be remembered for good things, if you leave a good impression on them, or if they're like, oh, that's that guy in the wheelchair, right? So I think the wheelchair, yes, it's a disability, but it can be used as an advantage. But it's kind of up to you how you do it.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a great way of putting that. And you were just talking about WASA, which for those of you that might not have ever heard of it, WASA is the Wisconsin Adaptive Sports Association, and you are a member of WASA. Yep. What sort of things do you have to say about WASA? How would you encourage people to get involved? If you want to go into any details about that.
Yeah, Wausau has a big hand in not only the community of Milwaukee, but in Wisconsin for adapted sports. I think, there's not just basketball, there's a ton of different sports, a ton of different activities. All of the people at Wausau work extremely hard to provide those opportunities for young people, adults with disabilities, and for, an opportunity to help out with a lot of those events too. They work extremely hard, so I think the best way to get involved in any kind of adapted sport or activity, go through Wausau. They have it, or they can get you in contact with someone. They have their hand in so many different things in Wisconsin that that's a great organization. They work extremely hard, and they are changing the lives of hundreds of people with disabilities. Mm-hmm. So it's an amazing organization, and so definitely everyone with a disability, I would encourage to get involved in some capacity with Wausau.
Okay, that's great to hear. One of the things I've noticed that Kunes Mobility really tries to highlight is the fact that people, one of the things we take for granted in our everyday lives is the ability to drive, mm-hmm. and drive, conveniently. As a person who is paralyzed, how mm-hmm. important is it for you to have the ability to drive, with adaptive equipment, like I said, do that conveniently?
Well, it's super important because, with me being paralyzed, I can't drive a vehicle with no adaptations at all, right? So, there's other stuff like Uber and taxis and stuff like that, but
I'm sure that adds up very quickly.
Yeah, but that's extremely pricey, and whenever you are in a wheelchair, the thing you're striving for is your independence, right? Mm-hmm. That's the number one thing everyone wants. They want to be able to live on their own, do anything they want on their own, and it's almost impossible to do that without a vehicle with that adapted equipment, So it's super important. It's super important to the independence that we try to strive for, right? Especially when you're newly injured. So it's very important to have that equipment and at an affordable rate too.
So going off of that, how important is it for you to drive, like we said, an adaptive vehicle and not be forced into a wheelchair accessible van, if that makes sense.
Yep. So being forced in a wheelchair accessible van, it's great for people that have to do that, but it's kind of a pain. The whole ramp comes down, you go up, you kind of get stuck in your wheelchair. I've seen some of the vans, some of them let you stay in your wheelchair, some don't, right? But I think that's not what every person with a physical disability strives for, right?
Yeah.
We want the newest and the coolest cars. We want to be able to go somewhere without creating too big of a scene, right? And just kind of feel like some type of way, either out of place or embarrassed that hey, this whole big ramp's coming down and it's so slow to go down, go up.
Which, I mean, in these Wisconsin winters can't be fun either. I mean, 100%. you're just trying to get in and warm.
100%. Being able to get in and out of that car as fast as possible, get your wheelchair in. It's the best way to do it, because like you said, during the winter, so many things can happen, right? What if the ramp freezes, something goes out, right? But being able to just have that adaptive equipment and, accelerate and brake safely, and get in and out, that flexibility is unmatched, right? That's what everyone with a physical disability strives for.
So now that we talked about that, let's talk a little bit about Whitewater. What do you think? I mean, let's act like we're, talking to, like, if someone were to watch this,
Yep.
and it was a parent of a, student who is in a wheelchair or anything. What do you think Whitewater does right about, being very wheelchair accessible and, making everyday life for college students in a wheelchair easy for them?
Yeah, I mean, Whitewater is one of the top universities in the country for accessibility, right? There's not one building that I can't get into or that my guys can't get into or anything like that. Super easy. They have ramps everywhere, elevators in every building, and they're never broken, right? You hear everyone, getting stuck in elevators and stuff. It doesn't happen here, and I think that's because the university really makes it a point to provide those services, right? It's in their mission statement. They have a whole a department dedicated for students with disabilities. So they really make it a priority, and they really make you feel like a priority here when you have a disability.
Definitely. Yeah, I will say, like, in my time here, I did notice that there wasn't, it wasn't like there was, one or two kids, whether they were in a wheelchair or had some sort of walker.
Yep.
So yeah, no, I think that's one of the things I just kind of started noticing. I'm like, wow, this must be a really good school for, like, that makes things, like, very accessible for students that are dealing with that, because it wasn't uncommon to see someone with some sort of physical disability, and I always thought that was really cool that to be going to a school that makes it a point to make things easier on people with that. So if you were sitting, so if you were recruiting right now, if you were sitting in the living room trying to recruit a student and you were talking to the parents, what are some of, like, the overall final bullet points you would like to summarize and say to viewers that might be taking a bigger interest in Whitewater after watching this video?
Yeah, I think every athlete that's interested in coming to Whitewater and play for me, I think what I really try to hit on is, number one, how academically successful Whitewater is. I'm set up for, right? Like I mentioned, the whole department with Center of Students with Disabilities. It's not just the physical accommodations. It's you'll get the help in the school. A lot of my guys take advantage of those services by getting extra test time, getting their lectures, videoed for them, getting their notes taken for them. So I think Whitewater really makes it a priority as far as the physical accommodations, but they also make it a big priority with the school accommodations itself. And I think that's super important, because I know when you have a physical disability, when you're looking at different colleges, right, the number one thing that you look for is one, the physical accommodations. How many steps are in a certain building? How many steps am I gonna have to get up to my dorm? Am I gonna have to stay on the bottom floor when all my friends are upstairs because they don't have an elevator in the dorm or something like that? And I think Whitewater makes it easy in that department. But also, if you're struggling in school or you need extra help in school, they understand that that's a priority. They understand that the goal is to get athletes here and to graduate them while they're playing basketball, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think Whitewater really makes it a priority that way. And also the way we do wheelchair basketball, like I said, we run our program like a job, right? You have to come and ready to work. And I think all that contributes to the environment that we have here at Whitewater.
Very well said. Well, I think that'll about conclude this Kunes Car Convo with Jake Williams, head coach of the Whitewater wheelchair basketball team. Thank you very much for joining us. Congratulations once again on national title. Good luck to you continuing to build the championship culture. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yep.
See ya.
Bye, guys.